So I wanted to share this story time about the Pretendian that I used to go to school with. So my school, excuse me. So my school had a very high population of Africans and a very high population of Hispanic / indigenous groups of people. So what I mean by that is there was definitely Mexicans, Dominicans, Puerto Ricans, you had Nigerians, Senegalese, Cameroonian, Liberian, Sierra Leone, people just from different groups from both, you know, from all these countries and whatnot. So anywho, and then there was like the small population of people who identified as indigenous Native American, not the Hispanic culture or Latin culture. And one was half, if we're using today's terms, white and Obajaway. I'm probably butchered how to say that clan, tribe, nation, but that's what she was. And then there was a Foley. I don't remember what group of people she was from, but it was those two people who identified as such. Then a Pretendian that I was friends with, let's call her Dominique Moans. So Dominique claimed to be Indian and Mexican or Indexican around freshman, sophomore year. And then somewhere over some summer, she started claiming that she had a Vietnamese grandmother who would say, what the hell? And then she also had found out, or her dad found out, that he wasn't Indian after all, he was actually Samoan. And so she changed her bio from claiming Indian and Mexican to claiming Vietnamese, Pacific Islander, and rode with that for a little bit. And then it was like, let's see, the fully indigenous Native woman or girl, let's call her Lily. Let's call her Lily. Yeah. So Lily was sharing details about like how her group of people, her nation, tribe, clan, how they had different practices and what it was like to be an indigenous Native woman in modern society on clearly their land, etc. And it was just like a light bulb moment went off in Dominique's head where they were like, oh yeah, like they can relate, when I'm just like, what are you talking about? You were claiming Indian and Mexican and now you're claiming that you are Pacific Islander with a Vietnamese grandmother. It doesn't make sense, but I should have called her out right then and there. But at the time I wasn't thinking about that. I was just trying to listen to her story, Lily's story, and, you know, just gain even more life experience and perspectives, because again, I'm coming from a very sheltered, ignorant state of mind, not because of my parents, but just in general. I wasn't exposed to anything different, and I also wasn't thinking about different races and ethnicities and cultures. I was just like, we're all doing this thing where we're just here until we're not moving anymore. So I never had any reason to think about it until high school. But anywho, so it was like after that conversation, then they started to do the work of a Pretendian. They started Googling things, started pretending that they were different groups, but at first they didn't specify what they were. They started hanging out with the half white and half Obajaway girl from our class. Let's call her Lavender. So Lavender and Dominique were hanging out. Lavender was under this false impression that Dominique was Afro-Indigenous, and they started becoming two peas in a pod, which I guess recently is no longer a thing. But I tried to tell her early on, like, Lavender, Dominique is not who you think she is, but they wanted to fight me tooth and nail, saying that I don't care what you have to say, X, Y, and Z. Now, I can understand because I don't have any indigenous roots or whatever, but if somebody is trying to share and they have nothing to gain from this situation, me, from a level-headed mind, would take it and then just do my own research and reach my own conclusion. But to be immediately defensive, I'm like, whatever, it is what it is. If you want to believe that, you go ahead. And like I said, karma happens, and they realized, but it took a while. Anywho, so again, they went from Indian and Mexican to Pacific Islander with a Vietnamese grandmother who said, what the hell, which I found out only came about because Vine was popular at this time. And there was a Asian creator who had a character who would literally have them saying what the hell like that or whatever, which I didn't know about. But anywho, fast forward, we're out of high school. The friendship is a little weird. We're more so internet friends, I guess. And occasionally they will unfollow me, follow me back, block, whatever. I'm like, I'm with this stuff. I'm petty too, so I could do the same energy. So go back and forth with that. They will like my stuff, and I'm like, I'm not liking anything of yours because now I'm on to you because you are a liar, you're a pretender. And anything indigenous that was commented on, I would definitely make them aware, whether they blocked me or whether they read it or whether they decided to, again, level-headed, take what I said, put clues together and reach their own conclusion, whatever it was. But unfortunately, for the most part, it was immediate block or screenshotting and sending to X, Y, and Z person. Now, everything I've ever said about this person has been facts. I have no reason to lie. What would I gain? Absolutely nothing. I'm not a clout chaser. I'm not an attention seeker like they are. They're narcissistic, gaslighters, manipulative. Like, I could go on and on. But I can see where it comes from because you have a parent who doesn't want to nip something that should have been nipped very early on in life and just go ahead with the motion that they have been putting on. Anywho, but like I said, I've seen her mom, I've seen her stepmother, or I've seen her mom, I've seen her step grandma, I've seen her granddad, I've seen pictures of her father and her brothers, I've seen her little brother who actively lived with her at the time when we were in high school. And yeah, I've just been around enough to know that there was no indication that her family was raised in any type of Indian Mexican culture, any Vietnamese culture, any type of indigenous native culture. There was no indication of this, no indication of reconnecting, nothing. It was solely just Dominique's doing within her room and on her Instagram, which was very, very weird. But now they're claiming, if you ask them any questions, they'll claim that they've been claiming that they've been open about it and since the beginning of high school. And I've had several people who can back me up who attended this school, who know this girl, who can debunk everything she's ever said online. But she doesn't want to go down that route. So what she does is she blocks everybody from high school, doesn't really talk to them, doesn't really talk to them, blocked everybody. And it's like, that's kind of weird. But of course, somebody like you would do something like that and pretend like you had such a terrible experience, when in reality, if someone wasn't worshiping you, whether it was complimenting your vanity, your artwork, your whatever, you didn't pay them any mind because you want people up your crack. And it's like, no. But anywho, so I knew she was a compulsive liar or whatever it's called when it was the racial thing or cultural thing. And then in college, I was at my best friend, or on the way to being best friend's apartment while we were starting our first year of college, and none of us had been on our period. And when we go to confront Dominique, she says, oh, she just started today. And it's like, you didn't. But the fact that she gave us like all these other excuses prior to finally admitting that she did take some of the feminine products because she started her cycle or whatever, it was just like, why do you keep lying about things that, one, we naturally go through, two, your ethnicity, as if being Black is something to be shameful of, which anything, you should be proud to stand in whatever you are, whether you're mixed with X, Y, and Z, you're not mixed, you're just 100% this or that. Like, be proud of where you come from. But she was not, and it's very sad. I don't understand why, but I'm not going to understand because that's just not for me to get. I could just only hope that she does better and gets help. But I am making this story time just to share with anybody who is on the powwow trail to, if they have encountered Dominique Moans, which is, again, not their name, but a name that rhymes very similarly to, and they've seen them participate in Fancy Shawl or participate in the singing portions of the powwow or even attempt to do jingle. They are not who they say they are. Again, I have no reason to be malicious. I have no gain from this. So I would just be wary of them. And honestly, I would call them out and start asking the actual questions, whether you believe in blood quantum or not, asking questions that only, you know, said groups would know or get the references of, etc. Because she's not a reconnecting Native or Indigenous woman. She is simply a beautiful Black woman visually, but because of her narcissistic, gaslighting, manipulative ways, it makes you very ugly both physically and internally. So it's just like, I can only hope this reaches the right audience. I can only hope that she is turned away on the powwow trail. She is not able to continue to steal opportunities from truly Indigenous women in these competitions, or Afro-Indigenous people, which you're making it harder by pretending to be Afro-Indigenous when you're not. And the fact that you've changed your clans, tribes, nations from Cree and Dene and Lenape, I hope I'm saying that correctly, to removing Cree and finally suddenly claiming Black, but abbreviating Black as if though you carry that with shame, and not embracing this alleged Samoan culture, which again, you have nothing of. Because if you were Samoan, you would know, one, your name would not be the name that you have, but two, and again, I've spoken with someone who is from Samoan culture who is 100% Samoan, and they said their name would not even be that if they were part Samoan, whether part or full. So that was red flag. Number two with the red flag was the fact that they were doing hula, which is not performed in Samoan culture, but Hawaiian culture, which are two different island cultures. Those their similarities, like with all cultures, is there's differences. And then you got to change your bio when you're, or not bio, but your caption when you're called out about it, saying that you were invited. It's just very weird. But like I said, she'll deny everything, but the edits, the screenshots, like the edited captions that you want to put, the what's it called, the archive or deleted photos, if you really take a look at their space, it's just weird. It's like, what are you doing besides robbing people of opportunities? So I say this to say, I really hope this reaches the right audience. I hope she is turned away from powwows. I wish her partner would understand that though she is physically beautiful and she is artistic, like visually artistically gifted, she is not who she says she is. And for the sake of your future, I wouldn't, like me personally, I wouldn't want somebody who's done all of this damage to be around my children or create any future children with that individual. So yeah, really hope this reaches the right audience. I hope you like this video. Again, I have no reason to share lies. Like I said, blood will give everything, bring to light whether you believe in blood quantum or not, whether you have to go to the hospital, whether you carry child, it's going to show, because every group has their own things that they are known to be prone to, whether it's diseases or other things like genealogy wise. So it's just like, you can keep lying to the internet, but this life, this universe knows who you are and what you are. So if you're curious about who this person is, if you do a simple searchy search on Instagram or on TikTok, they are now going under the name that rhymes, well, not rhymes with, but if you know the word for the phrase let's go in native language or indigenous language, underscore the opposite of a king, they should pop up with beadwork and fancy shawl clips and some other things. But yeah, they need help, and I feel terribly for the people they've impacted and robbed of opportunities. So yeah, I hope you guys have a good day. Definitely going to be posting more consistently.